The choice, it's kind of a throwback in a way to my very first novel, The Notebook, a more simple, structured story where you really learn about how a couple comes together and you see what eventually happens between them. And of course, it's a much shorter time frame than The Notebook was.
You know, it's one of the books that I think has gotten least attention of the 17 novels that he's written over the years. But his editor and I have always felt, and I think Nick feels this way too, that it's just one of the most poignant and most devastating and also most redeeming of all of his novels.
You did what your heart told you. And if anybody has anything to say about that, they gotta go through me.
I think when Nick and I first started talking about adapting The Choice and the idea of making an independent Nicholas Sparks movie rather than a studio-based Nicholas Sparks movie, the idea was to find a way to really elevate the genre. And, you know, he'd made 7, 8, 9 of these pictures at this point adapted from his work. And we didn't want to do the exact same thing again. I think the idea was to try to create something that felt different, that felt fresher, that felt more modern. You know, maybe that was a little less earnest than some of the pictures that had recently come out.
And my agent called me and said, you gotta stop everything and read this script. And I was like, it's a little dramatic, you know? And I read it and I was laughing out loud. And I didn't expect in a you know, Nicholas Sparks adaptation to be laughing so much.
So, congratulations. In a month, you're going to be a grandma.
But I'm too young.
Yeah, well, these things happen. We'll help you through it. You have any idea who the responsible party might be?
Ha! Responsible? That word doesn't even belong in the same zip code as this guy.
I meant the dog.
Oh, right, yes.
But it
Well,
was so
doesn't go
funny.
far.
And then it took quite a turn and was sexy and romantic and then ultimately dramatic. And I thought, wow, as a film director, you get to do comedy, you get to do romance and love, and you get to do drama. Like, you get to sort of do it all in one movie.
It feels quite different from a lot of Nicholas Sparks' films. I mean, obviously it's set in this idyllic location. It's North Carolina, it's by the water, there's scenes in the rain, and there's a rowboat. And I love that because it's quintessential Nicholas Sparks and it's romantic. But I love how funny this is. I really felt like I got to be comedic in this movie, and so did Ben.
You're responsible.
That's right, this is my fault. It's all my fault. I take full responsibility. I've talked to him so many times about using protection.
Don't patronize me. Oh my God,
I'm sorry.
you are
I'm sorry. Look, you're right. This is
unbelievable.
serious. This is serious. How long do we have? I mean, how far along is?
Oh God, this is so funny to you.
That's a little funny. Yeah.
It really is not your typical love story in that it has 3 parts. A lot of love stories about falling in love and what that's like, meeting someone and falling in love. But this one has a whole 3rd section where you get to explore what being in love is and what happens when life enters into a love relationship. And I think that's interesting. I think that is a real love story.
I really think it goes to the choices that we make in life. You know, the novel itself was, of course, very interesting because you think all along, and of course the film as well, you think all along that the choice is one thing when actually it's an entirely different choice. And to me, you know, those kinds of twists and turns that you don't expect, those always add to the excitement or just the interest in the story. For me, it's what makes a story memorable.
Reading the book, it occurred to me early on that this is just a very human story. And my favorite thing is to write about people, you know. I don't need big explosions or, you know, movies set in space, but people talking to each other, human drama is probably my favorite thing to write about.
Well, I think it's a spirit of the law rather than the letter of the law. I really feel that, you know, it captures the essence of the book in a really respectful way. But just there's certain things when you translate from, you know, prose to the silver screen, and certain plot things as well that have changed.
I mean, everybody knows that the movies that he makes have a lot of the romance, and that was a challenge for me. I'd never written anything like that before, but as I was writing it, I realized that this is still just people, and this is very human. And after a while, you get to know these characters, and you count on them, and you look forward to spending a day with them. And that's how I felt about Travis and Gabby.
But really, the main character, Travis, he was inspired by my older brother in many ways, this kind of happy-go-lucky guy who really knew how to live and be single. So that's what I had with him. And then, you know, Gabby was actually partially modeled on a former employee of mine who became a physician assistant. And you kind of said, hey, I wonder what would happen. And you bring these two together and you see what happens.
But this is all I get. So what about you?
No. No, see, that is not fair. How am I supposed to know how you feel?
I love you. You hear me? I love you. I'll say it again. I love you. I say it a million times. I love you. I love you. I love you. I knew it the second you walked into my yard, ready to rip me a new one. Hell, my damn dog knew it.
Ben Walker was the first actor I met with for The Choice. And I called our producer, Peter Safran, our great producer, and I said, this is the guy. And he's like, but you've only met one person. And I said, this is the guy. This is the guy. We found Travis. And he was like, you know, cautious. Like, all right, you got to date around a little bit before you get married. And I was like, I'm ready to get married.
I think we really couldn't picture anybody else as authentically Travis as Ben is.
I'm nothing if not a team player. Yowzer!
I like him. He's bright and he's funny and he gets it. And he's talented. I don't know what else an actor needs, really, to sort of get on in this life. You know, luck, I suppose, is what they need. But he's probably lucky, too.
He is an extraordinary Juilliard-trained actor. And when you watch him work, it's masterful what he does.
Hi.
You? What are you doing here?
Mr. Holland. Mrs. Holland, I'm Travis Shaw. Maybe you've heard of me.
Ben was not only a team player. I mean, you work with people and they want the movie to be good and they want, you know, but some actors are just purely in their own headspace, which is okay. Ben is about the team. He's about making the other actor comfortable. He's about making their scene better. He also brings a tremendous amount of joy on set. Lots of singing, lots of dancing, lots of goofing, and that made it really fun.
My heart went boom, but luckily my pacemaker kicked in. At least I think it was my heart. Something downstairs went boom.
And then, of course, when you're in a scene with Ben Walker, who's a Juilliard-trained, amazing actor, you just suddenly get very present. And I was just really playing off of all the things he was throwing at me, and we kind of found these characters together. A lot of it's, you know, unscripted and spontaneous, and often that has been my favorite stuff to film. It's just being in there with Ben and figuring out who these people are.
You just break it down.
Wait,
It only works when you have this face, like you smell something really bad.
Yeah. If you're the guy, if you're the girl, it has to be happier.
She's really good, and she's really funny. You're able to play in the way that Travis and Gabby would play, you know, kind of bust each other's balls a little bit, and it's healthy and fun. She's not bad to look at.
And Teresa, when I met her via Skype because I was in North Carolina, she was in Los Angeles. Teresa said, "Oh my God, I'm the biggest Nicholas Sparks fan. I have to do this movie." And I was like, well, that's a good opener.
I have been the biggest Nicholas Sparks fan for so long, especially The Notebook. That came out in 2004, I believe, and I was 18, so that was the perfect age for that movie to come out. I was absolutely enamored by it. So to hear that I had the opportunity to be a part of my own Nicholas Sparks story was truthfully such a dream. It felt like I had manifested this.
We really could pull off this inner strength because, of course, she's confronted with making some major life decisions throughout the course of the film. And you wanted someone who just kind of radiated that on screen. Of course, we're looking for great chemistry between her and Ben, and they had that in the screen test. So we were incredibly fortunate to get her on set to do this project. I mean, we were very blessed.
Teresa is like, you know, lightning in a bottle. I mean, she has more energy and she is so enthusiastic.
I'm so excited, ride a carnival.
What ride you're gonna ride?
I'm gonna ride the upside down ride.
That's amazing.
I know.
And so beautiful and so open and so giving. It was so much fun to put them together, Teresa and Ben, because they both have such a kind of joie de vivre.
And here I was getting to play my own version of Allie Hamilton. And I just said to my agents, please do whatever you can to get me this movie.
Yeah, every once in a while she'll tell me to say she's a bird. Stuff like that. We were in the rain reenacting the, I wrote you every day for a year. All that kind of stuff. It's good.
I don't know, it's not that so much any of us are great for this. I think we were all just chosen because of sort of innate qualities we had to begin with.
One of the biggest differences in the choice between anything else I've ever done is this ensemble cast, right? There's a lot of friends involved and they have families.
I was really excited about being part of a Nicholas Sparks movie because I think his movies focus in on an aspect of love and romance that is exciting, and I think the level of passion and the idea that you have to take chances and do things that are contrary to what you think you should do in order to follow your heart, I think is sort of a relatable idea, and also a really makes for a really beautiful story.
Mrs. Vandy? Alice? I was thinking maybe we could have dinner sometime.
Yes.
I think it's a well-told love story, and they're fairly rare. I mean, just well-told scripts these days seem to be.
And the dynamic between Teresa Palmer, Ben Walker, and Tom Wilkinson is really, for me, one of my favorite things about the movie.
No, okay, so when I found out that Tom was playing our dad, I mean, I'm such a geek. My whole family, like, we were so excited. I've watched him on the BBC since I was a kid, like everything I grew up watching. And there's just so many things that, like, when I told my dad, who was playing my dad in this movie, he was like, I have chills. I have chills. I feel like, oh my God, really? And then anytime they ask how I'm doing, it's not like, how's the movie going? How's Wilmington? No, it's like, have you worked with Tom yet? That's the whole thing.
Oh.
Hello. Great.
It's a nice script. That's the first thing that actors will always tell you, and that's the first thing that draws you to it. It's really interesting, witty characters and a touching tale, well told. Plus, the director is a very old friend of mine.
I hadn't worked with Tom Wilkinson since doing In the Bedroom, when I was a producer before I was a director. And that's one of the movies that I produced. And I waited 14 years to call in a favor. And I said, Tom, you have to do this movie.
I always find the sort of single criterion for whether a script will hold an audience is whether it holds me when you read it for the first time. And, I mean, if you're stopping to make coffee every 20 minutes, then you're probably not onto a winner. But I didn't do that.
And thankfully, he loved Brian Sipe's script, and we got together, and it was like, you have Ben Walker, this Juilliard-trained actor, you have Teresa Palmer, who's brilliant, and you have Tom, who just walks onto the set and nails it.
You know, Ross, I mean, what you get with him is a sort of fantastic sense of what a script is. You've got to have that, and most directors do have that, but Ross has certainly got it in spades. He's also got a fantastic ability to keep people happy.
But he also is extremely hardworking. He has great instincts. He has great ideas, and he's just a really generous director.
And he's just a really wonderful, soulful, compassionate, warm, brilliant guy who's really into character and storytelling.
Ross Katz is the perfect captain of this ship because he knows what he wants, when he knows it, and when he doesn't, he's open to collaboration.
No. Why don't you just say what's on your mind, which is go F yourself.
He's willing to let you play. He's like the kind of director that builds a big, safe, fun playground and then says, go play.
He allows it to be organic and for it to find its own feet and give us the freedom as actors to explore and be present and just be in the scenes. And that brings the best work, and that's not typical for a director. Sometimes they're very regimented, they're very stuck in their way of seeing something. But he is so open and bright that he just allows you to have creative freedom.
And sometimes you're on the slide and he's like, hey man, go get on the swing. You're like, oh, great idea. And he knows how to structure it while at the same time giving you freedom to figure out what you'd like to do.
He really knows how he wants the edit to look. He'll say, I need a little bit more of a gap between this line and that line. Can you come in at a different angle because I want to be able to cut out of here straight into something else. So because he has a great vision in how he sees it, editorially, he's really on point with what he asks of us as actors.
You know, whenever you're picking a director, like our selection with Ross Katz, what you're really looking for is a number of different things. Primarily, though, what you're looking for is vision. What is their vision of the film, and does it match what the producers see, what the studio sees? And Ross had this amazing vision that was not only in line with what all the producers wanted, but it added so many great elements, a lot of humor, things like that. But this amazing vision, and he brings North Carolina life, he brings Travis's life to the big screen in a way that you can see why Gabby is drawn to him, and at the same time you can also see why Travis is drawn to Gabby, and that comes from his ability to work really well with actors.
You know, I think when you see The Choice, the first surprise will be the comedy.
Puppies? Oh, you're half dressed.
Because you don't typically expect this level of comedy in a grounded love story. So I think that you really have fun with it. Hopefully it's very sexy, very dreamy, but grounded. You know, these things could really happen. They could really happen to you. They could really happen to, you know, the people that you know. And I hope that it's a collective experience, a communal experience where people feel they can relate, and I hope it's inspiring as well. Well, the script was originally set in a different area, part of North Carolina. And I got to Wilmington and I flipped.
You know, one of the great things about living in North Carolina and being able to film in North Carolina is I get to introduce other people who may have never been here to the beauty of the coastal region of North Carolina. You know, the vast majority of my films are set in the coastal Carolina region. Not all of them, but most of them. And it is a different way of life here. It's slower, there's smaller towns, and so much of your world seems to revolve around the water.
Wilmington is only an hour flight from New York. It is exquisitely beautiful, North Carolina. I mean, it's like people talk about visiting the Grand Canyon, you know, those American iconic places, I would send anybody to North Carolina because it's magnificent.
Nature is like another character in this movie, and the setting is picturesque.
Yeah, it's sort of, you kind of like start looking at real estate listings and thinking like, how much do I have to be in LA? Like realistically, how many actual auditions do I have to go on? Like, could I live here? It's beautiful.
You know, water, of course, always plays a role because it's so intrinsic to the eastern region of North Carolina. You have rivers and oceans and things like that, and you have storms, right? And we try to do a little bit of everything in here to bring just the sense of that's the way life is here.
And as a city, they support you. You can feel their support. Everybody wants to know, and everybody knows somebody that's working on it. You know, if you're doing a movie in New York, everybody hates you. I got somewhere to be, get out of the way. You know, nobody cares about your stupid movie, but here they want you to be successful. They want it to be good, and we also want to use them. We shot at Dockside. We want to illuminate this beautiful town and this beautiful nature, the beach. There's so much to be used here and appreciated, and it's kind of an honor that we can with this movie.
I mean, there hasn't been a bad set, and then there's this beautiful house that's Travis's house, and then they built Gabby's house next door, this little cottage. I thought it seemed totally organic to the property, but it's a set that they just built.
Mark Garner, who's our production designer, he was in charge of building Gabby's little cottage, and we all fell in love with it.
So right up here is Travis's home, and when we were first scouting this location, I remember floating by this place saying, wow, that is a great place. That looks like some place Travis would live, but the only problem was that there was no home next to it that Gabby could live in. So what do? You do a little bit of movie magic, and you come up with something like this. Now, who is responsible for this kind of movie magic? I want to introduce you to my good friend, Mark Garner. This is our fourth project that we've worked on together. Mark and I worked on The Notebook, we worked on Dear John, we worked on The Longest Ride, and now we're doing The Choice.
We looked at just building the facade of the house, and then, well, if we're up and we're looking down at it, we have to have a full roof. It's got to have a porch. It has to have at least 2 sides. It's got to have a deck. If we're going to do all that, we may as well finish it and go ahead and do it as a full interior, exterior set.
So what do we got here? Let's start with this.
Well, coastal house has to have a porch. So
this porch looks worn. It looks like it's been here for, I don't know, 30, 40 years. How do you do that?
Movie magic. It's all brand new construction, but with a team of carpenters and then a great team of scenics. They come in and just start wearing all the edges down, chipping it away, adding the age to it, even dusting it to give it some of that dust that's blowing in off the...
What about something like these fans or these fixtures?
The light fixtures are actually period fixtures. We shopped those. All the hardware for both the inside and outside is all period. We wanted to give it some authenticity.
It is so homey and endearing and this warm space. All the pieces are vintage, and it feels like everything in her cottage, there was so much love poured into it and a lot of thought into every ornament, every piece of furniture, every picture. I wanted to live there.
Well, the house was based on a cottage that I actually used to own.
Okay.
And I wanted, in thinking about the action that was going to take place in Gabby's cottage, I needed to know that something was going to both accommodate the action as well as camera.
Okay.
So
now, what does that mean when you say action as well as camera?
Well, we've got a lot of action that's taking place, but you have to have a place for the camera and the crew.
Gotcha.
So in designing this house, everything is designed with that in mind, so that these walls actually will wild away. We can remove that wall completely, move the furniture out of the bedroom area, and camera can be back there if there's a scene taking place here in the living room.
Unbelievable. How about anything on the ceiling?
The ceiling is all coffered. Every panel pulls out so that lighting can put lights in there to light the scene as needed.
But this all looks so permanent.
It does. It actually is a real stick-built home, but it's designed for film.
His attention to detail is superb, and it makes all the difference in film, because it really matters.
So here we are, we're now in Gabby's bedroom. So it's really just a living room, a dining room, a kitchen, and a bedroom. So really just 4 rooms with some walls. And again, this would be the wall that you say they can just remove and put the camera in here and film whatever they need.
Actually, they can remove all the walls in here. That wall can completely go away. These 2 walls can also go away. There's a post that supports the structure in the middle, but there's a superstructure above us, which will allow them to pull the walls as needed for camera to be outside because it is a small space.
Got it.
The windows are all practical. We have practical screens on the outside. Camera can also be out there. The window pane or the window jamb will actually come out.
Oh, wow.
And allow camera to film out there as over a camera port. One of the things to think about is also the fact that this is 2005 in Gabby's house, so we're going back 10 years, which is why we have an older television. The stereo is even a little bit older. But to even add to that, in my mind, the character, Gabby doesn't have a lot of stuff. She's a student, she's a medical student. She needs solitude to study, etc. She moves into a home that's furnished. The people who were living here, how I create the backstory, the people who were living here they moved into a retirement home or assisted living. So the house was pretty much set up with furniture, lamps, and things like that. Everything you see starts up here. I have a great team. I have a great art director and a great set decorator that work with me to pull all of this together. Wow. I give them a theme or a feeling. I actually feel the color palette even.
Beautiful.
I'm sorry.
This view we got here is just beautiful.
So just being in that location, on the water there, with the sun setting and, you know, the house is right on the water, that is a dream life. It's idyllic, it's serene, it's calming.
Well, Mark, I want to thank you for this walk around, this little look behind the scenes. I love this kind of stuff because I think it's stuff that viewers don't often get, is this look behind the scenes and how it all comes together and all of the thoughts that come to mind when you're making the scenes and everything behind, actually, what goes on behind the characters. Again, it's one of the reasons why I love working with him and one of my favorite people in the world, Mark Garner, the production designer.
And I would have to say my favorite co-star in this movie, without question. And I think also the best actor in this film. So completely truthful and present in every moment. Bolt, who plays Moby, the dog.
You must be Molly. Oh, which would make this little girl Gabby. That right?
Yeah. No, I am Gabby. She's Molly.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm sorry we're late. There's an emergency at work.
Don't worry, honey. I've heard it all. Just admit you off knocking boots with somebody's husband. Oh, I'm teasing. Oh, my goodness. You should see the look on your face.
Molly is my sweet girl. She's my dog in the movie, played by this wonderful dog actress called Grace the Face, we call her, Gracie.
And this is her first movie role. She's done some commercials, but this is her first big break on the movies to be a movie star.
This is her big debut. And she has been amazing. She's such a sweet lover.
Hey, Molly, do you know how many liters of blood the circulatory system processes per day on average? Oh my God, 20, that's right. Good girl, you got that right.
I have to say, you know, like, I love dogs. I love dogs. And these dogs were so much fun to work with.
This is such a sweet dog. This is such a sweet dog. You are. We were out on a boat shooting all morning. On a boat? I got up at 4 a.m., Dreyfus. I'm tired.
I was a nervous wreck when we were getting ready to shoot because I was like, this dog has to do so much. I know actors that can't do what this dog has to do.
Our company, Birds and Animals, is based out of Orlando, Florida and LA, California. And we've been in the business for over 25 years.
They're so smart. I got taught all the different things to do with her so that she can react to me. So this means bark. So the trainer would be like, can you do the sign and get her to bark?
Did you see she barked me?
Get her to bark, feed her a treat. She knows that she has to be with me. And, you know, so I got to learn how to interact with her. And she literally hits her mark way better than I do.
Okay, go put your feet up. Hide your eyes. Say your prayers. Good girl, all right. All right, good girl.
I love films with dogs because I just happen to love dogs. You know, I have my dog here while I'm doing all this today. My dog follows me everywhere, and so I think that the dogs serve as a vehicle to bring Travis and Gabby closer together.
The dogs in the movie play a significant role. They're not just window dressing. They're not just sort of cute they have actual things they need to do, story points they need to convey and tell. And so casting the right dogs was really important.
Hi, I'm Gary Moy. I'm a trainer on the movie The Choice, and this is Bolt. Bolt is a 6-year-old Australian Shepherd St. Bernard mix. We met in Japan. I adopted him when he was 8 weeks old, and we performed a live animal show in Japan. In 2011, we came home to the United States, and Bolt's been doing movie work ever since.
Do not put food around him. We were grilling out on the beach, and I think he was just biding his time. He was supposed to be like laying there very quietly, and they called cut. And he just went around the circle and ate 4 pieces of fried chicken, 2 hot dogs. He had just been biding his time, and he moved in like a ninja.
Since he's part Australian Shepherd, what really motivates Bolt is the fact that he actually has a job and something to do. I mean, he likes treats, so I give him a lot of Bill Jack liver treats, and different kinds of things. You vary it up. Sometimes you give him a little bacon, not a lot, but just a little people food just to keep it interesting.
He really only cares about roast beef, so if you have roast beef in your pocket, you're awesome.
Dogs and babies bring joy to a set.
Okay, that works for you. You an itty bitty puppy. I mean, look at that face.
The rule is, for a director, you're not supposed to work with animals or children because it's really difficult. In this case of this movie, we worked with a lot of animals and children, and it was a joy.
For him, he really just needs to be mentally stimulated. He sleeps much better after a day of work than a day of play.
He will do a Rubik's Cube if you got roast beef. It's remarkable what he can do. But if you don't, he's taking a nap, like most actors.
You're the only one who understands me. What do you say when all this is over, we go on the road together?
It is my pleasure to introduce Ross Katz, the amazing director of The Choice. Now, as one of the producers, I'm going to throw a couple of things out here. There were a few things that we were looking for. So we wanted someone who had a great reputation for working with actors. We wanted someone with a lot of history behind film. Not necessarily, they could be a young director, but someone who's been around film a lot and they know how it all works. But most of all, when we sat back, we were looking for a couple of big things. Number 1 was enthusiasm, and number 2 was vision. So talk to me about your enthusiasm. You get this script out of the blue. How does that happen? You have an agent, or talk to me about that process.
Yeah, I did a movie that called Adult Beginners, which is a comedy drama.
Okay.
And it's something that I shot last year and hadn't planned on starting another movie right away. It was quite wonderful to do a comedy drama that's mostly comedy, because my first film, Taking Chance, is quite serious and a bit on the heavy side. And my agent called me freaking out and said, "I've just read something. You have to stop everything and read it."
And I was sort of, really? He said, it's the new Nicholas Sparks. And I said, okay, I have to read it. I mean, because I've been such a fan of the books, the movies.
Thank you.
And I thought, well, would they even consider me? You know, okay, well, anyway, I read The Choice, and it had so much of what I love about your work. And it had this level that I read it and I went, wow, the first act is really funny.
Right.
The second act is incredibly sexy and romantic.
Right.
And the third act is really dramatic. For an actor and an actress and for a director, you get to do everything.
Right.
You know, in most films, you get to either be dramatic or be comedic, but you don't get to do all of it.
Right.
And in this film, you get to do all of it. And so I fought tooth and nail for it.
Nice. Well, you know, you were our choice, and it can't be any happier that things are going so well. You know, you get this initial script, you go crazy for the reasons you just say. But as you know in film, and maybe people out there don't know, but you get a script and we have to cut things down.
Right.
Okay. Now, what we were most impressed with was your vision. How do you maintain that vision as you're beginning to cut things down to make it, you know, a 2-hour movie or an hour and 50 minutes from maybe it was looking like it was going to be 2.5 hours? How do you make those choices? What does that mean? And how do you maintain that vision? And what do you see for the vision of this?
Well, I think, you know, making there's something that happens when you go from development into actual production. Suddenly, you're by a real body of water, and you're at a real house, and you're at a real carnival. And the things that are imagined in the writer's mind maybe don't exist, maybe can't exist, or maybe you've found a more cinematic language that is, you know, less prosaic and more filmic. And I think by trying to do the best that we can to always elevate the film and the language of the film, create a language to the film, we start by saying, okay, there are practical things, like the movie is likely to be 2 hours and 40 minutes. That's too long. So we'll start cutting down. But for me, what we ended up with is a script that is more efficient, but it's a better script. Brian Sipe, the screenwriter, did a brilliant job of adapting your work. And for me, the vision of this film is to have something that is so funny and so grounded at the same time that these are people that you can say, I could be them.
Right.
These are my friends.
Right.
And then when the other shoe drops and things become a little darker, a little heavier, you are so invested in these folks and you feel like a part of their family. One of the things that I wanted to do from the beginning was to shoot in widescreen. And, you know, for people who don't know the difference between kind of a regular, what you typically see, and a widescreen film, the widescreen film is, you know, it's literally wider and a little bit thinner.
Right.
And it's like old westerns shot in widescreen. And what it does is the film tends to wrap around you.
Nice.
It tends to almost hug you and bring you in. And one of the things that I think is so profound in your work is the sense of place and the sense of environment and the sense of creating a world. And I want everyone to see this movie and in the first 10 minutes say, I want to live in that world.
Nice.
I want to be with those people.
You know, one of the other, I think, big differences between this film, this is the 11th film adapted from my work,
right,
and let's say the other 10, is there is a definite, little bit more of an indie film
right,
type feel to this. Is that what you were going for? And for those who don't know, what's the difference? And you know, is it ensemble? What's the difference and what are you going for? Because I, as a producer, we knew, but let's pretend people don't know. So,
yeah. Well, I actually liken it to, in my former life, I was a producer. And 2 of the films that I produced were In the Bedroom and Lost in Translation.
Right.
And both of those films were more modestly budgeted films. They were films that were made a little bit outside of the system, if you will. But they were films that had big aspirations, you know, to reach a very wide audience.
Right.
And I think when you approach something independently, what you're looking to do is infuse it. There can be, and not always, but there can be a certain sheen to films that we want to kind of pull off the veneer. And while this film, I think, is going to be, I already know from seeing the footage, the most visually arresting, you know, film I've made, hands down, including the films I've produced. It has a natural quality to it, where, you know, nature and the sense of place is very real.
Right.
And it doesn't feel like a movie set, and it doesn't have a sheen to it that feels sort of like, oh, you know, those are people, but they couldn't be me.
Right.
And I think so when we take an independent approach to something, it's trying to create a dialogue with the audience that is lesser known to them, a way of opening up the world of the book and the film to a mass audience.
You know, one of the key things that a director has to do, and it's something really where the producers step back, it's work with the cast. Talk to me a little bit about Ben, Teresa, why you chose them, you know, some of the other, you know, Tom, whoever you would like to just throw, you know.
Yeah, we have.
It's a young and hip cast. Let's start.
We have
Was
a
that
very
important
young,
to you?
very hip cast, and what was important to me was that these guys, first of all, you talked about enthusiasm. I wanted a cast that was dying to do this. When I spoke to Teresa Palmer about this project, she said, "You don't understand what Nicholas Sparks means to me. You don't understand what these books mean to me. Like, how many hours do you have?" And I was like, okay, check. And I loved that. And secondly,
and she's an amazing actress.
She is extraordinary.
Unbelievably trained. She's from Australia. She's had a long history. She knows.
Oh yeah, Teresa is extraordinary. And Ben Walker, I saw Ben on Broadway in Bloody Bloody Andrew Jackson. It is, to this day, in the top couple of performances I have ever seen on Broadway, he was electrifying. He was magnetic. He was playing Andrew Jackson as sort of a rock star. And every person in the audience was electrified. And I thought, who is this kind of quiet, a little bit shy guy that turns into this electric persona? That's what I want Travis
He's got
to
an
have.
amazing range, everything
You know,
from music to comedy in his real life.
He's a stand-up comedian. He plays and he writes songs, plays guitar, sings Broadway musicals. I mean, he does everything, dramatic work, and I mean, he's just come from doing a very dramatic film in the Heart of the Sea for Ron Howard, where you know he was starving in a rowboat for months, and based on a true story. So he's extremely versatile, and what I wanted was to find a cast that would, you know, breathe life into your characters in a way that would make them extraordinarily beautiful, but relatable.
Nice.
And people that we, you know, as I was saying before, people that we wanted to know. And I also wanted to have a cool factor. You know, there is a cool factor to this cast. They're young and they're energetic and they're exciting, and you know, Ben, between his work in film and Broadway, is amazing. Teresa did a film called Warm Bodies, which was a massive hit and was a very funny, wonderful romance. She's just done the kind of reboot of Point Break, which is a huge movie. And then you add into the mix a two-time Academy Award nominee, Tom Wilkinson.
Right.
Who I literally said to his manager, number one, this is a Nicholas Sparks project. Number two, Tom has to do this. I don't think I can handle no. And he said, wow, that's a lot of guilt. And I worked with Tom on In the Bedroom. And I thought, when I read Shep, who plays Ben Walker's father in the movie.
Right, Travis.
Travis.
Right.
Travis's father. I thought nobody else can do this like Tom Wilkinson.
Nice.
The heart, the soul, you know. And here's this, you know, Academy Award nominated actor, and he of course was very familiar with you and your work. So that was exciting to him from the beginning. And then he read the script and he said, he had this great reaction. He just said, it's just so human.
Nice.
And very moving. And so Tom actually gets here in a week or so, and we're excited to throw him into the mix.
Great ensemble cast. Why is that important in a film like this?
For me, this film is ultimately about finding home.
Right.
And that, you know, home is not a place. It can be, but it's not necessarily a place. Home can be a person or people. And in the beginning of the movie and throughout the movie, Travis's home is his friends. And it's fear of loss that keeps him from letting love in, letting a relationship blossom. And I think that as we kind of go along with Travis, what we find is a guy who starts to open himself up to possibilities. And the ensemble, having an ensemble cast was really important because we need this sense of family, this sense of your buddies aren't just your buddies, they're your home.
Right.
And ultimately, we wanted Travis to find a home in Gabby, someone who's outside his circle.
Right.
And this cast hangs out together on weekends, goes out to dinner at night. When they're not shooting and they could be sitting in trailers, they're sitting and hanging out together.
Nice.
I mean, it's a real family environment.
Nice. So let's see, we got the cast.
Right.
We got the setting, we got the widescreen, taking
Right.
that into account, peeling off the veneers so it makes it feel like everybody's working.
Right.
Got a lot of enthusiasm, not only from the cast, but from the director. A lot of experience, and I think we can see why you were the perfect choice to direct this film. Everybody, my good friend Ross Katz.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, here we are on the set of The Choice, and I am absolutely thrilled. Oh, if you don't know who I am, Nicholas Sparks. But I am with the star of the film who plays Gabby. This is Teresa Palmer, and great to see you.
Hi, so good to see you.
You know, I have worked with Australians before. You know, Liam Hemsworth is a
Oh,
friend
the
of mine,
best.
right? Luke Bracey.
Yes.
So do you know them?
Yeah, I worked with Liam on 2 films.
Okay.
We did Cut Bank together and Love and Honor a couple of years ago.
All right.
He's amazing, surfy, totally laid back. And then Luke Bracey I just did Point Break with.
So what is it about Australia? Right? How come all these young actors, actresses come in from Australia? Do you go like come on the same plane in this big club and say we're going to invade Hollywood?
Yeah, it's the Invasion Hollywood plane. We all just board it and we come out and we start working. You know what I think it is? We have such a small industry in Australia, so we are only making 10, 11, 12 movies per year. So there just aren't a lot of jobs. So we flock to America, and then we've had amazing actors come before us like Nicole Kidman and Russell Crowe and all these people who give us such a great reputation, and so we get hired.
I gotcha. All
It's
right.
kind of perfect.
So how do you start, right? If it's a small industry, how did you start? When did the acting bug capture you?
Well, I was 18 and I was actually going to be a midwife, and I met with this young 18-year-old director who gave me a script, and he's like, have you ever acted before? I was like, no, I haven't, but I'll give it a whirl. And I read this script. It was very dark, certainly a subject matter that was hard to swallow. It was about youth suicide, and I played a rape victim who was pregnant with my brother's baby. And it was really intense.
Not a Nicholas Sparks film.
Certainly not a sweet, loving, romantic Nicholas Sparks movie. It was really dark. So
obviously.
I got thrown in the deep end, and I just had to kind of swim and figure it out. And the film ended up premiering at the Cannes Film Festival in 2006.
Okay.
So I met American agents and managers from there.
Okay, and so then how soon after that did you come to America?
straight away, I begged my dad to send me to Cannes. I was like, please buy me a plane ticket. This is amazing. I went there, and Dad always thought I was going to come back and finish my degree and just live in Adelaide. And then I was lucky enough that I started auditioning for films in LA. I went for 2 weeks, and I booked a few jobs in my first 2 weeks there. And,
wow.
And that was it. I kind of stayed. I never really went home again.
So LA is pretty much home for you.
It is. I love it.
So what can we say about, okay, so you, in this film, you play Gabby.
Yes, Gabby Holland.
What does Teresa Palmer and Gabby have in common? What do they have in common?
Well, what I love so much about Gabby is she has this bright, beautiful spirit. And she is hopeful, and she's a lover, and she's funny, and she doesn't take things too seriously. And I feel like I do the same thing. And I'm just trying to embody that spirit in her because she's such a fascinating character. She's a well-written, beautiful, strong woman. And you do that so perfectly.
Thank you.
And it was just such a blessing to read what a layered person she was, yet she has this effervescence about her.
Kind of like you.
Thank you.
So it's a big stretch.
It is. It's a little bit of a stretch. No, it's been. It's wonderful. I'm definitely bringing things about my own life, and then creating this whole backstory. She's a medical student. She's hyper intellectual, but she's at a crossroads in her life, and she's trying to find who her spirit is, who she truly is, and it kind of in meeting Travis, he breathes life back into her, and I think it's so romantic and beautiful.
Now, since I've worked with so many Australians, you have a different accent than...
I do.
You do. It's more southern, right?
It
Is it the
is.
same in Australia?
It is. I'm from South Australia. That's why
Yes,
a lot of
the
people
South.
think I'm from the
Yes.
South. And it's funny, I have people wondering if I am from here, but I just have a very thick Southern Australian accent.
And now, is that hard to turn off when you have to do this? Do you have a dialogue coach? Do you have to think about it every scene? How does that work?
I don't. I think, when I first came out here, I worked extensively with a dialect coach. We worked for about 3 months. She was on a movie with me. And we just sort of put the foundations of an American accent down. And then
Like
every
a real
now
one
and then...
from the South? Or
From
one of the
South,
fake ones?
No, no, I wish. It was just a standard American.
All right.
And then I go in and I just kind of tweak it with lessons here and there with her. And on this one, we chose to do standard American. And I was really excited to do the Southern accent, but Gabby's doing the standard American accent.
Got it. So why were you excited to play? You get the script Tell me how this whole thing came about.
It was amazing because I had been traveling around the world working on Point Break. I got back and
With Luke Bracey.
With Luke Bracey,
Right,
funnily
from The
enough.
Best of Me, right?
Yes, who's amazing. And then I get a call from my agent, and he knows that I have been the biggest Notebook fan, like geek out Notebook fan. In fact, my mom sent me a Notebook board game. I don't know if you even knew that they had them, but she sent me one from years ago.
I had no idea.
Notebook stationery, I have the whole thing. But my agent rang me and was like, there's a Nicholas Sparks script that I think you're really gonna like. And he sent it to me, and I read it in one sitting. I was bawling my eyes out. I rang him immediately and said, do anything you possibly can to get me this job. It's unbelievable. So I met with Ross over Skype, our director, our amazing director.
Right.
And there's my dog in the background. And it was just magical. I felt like there was a higher power involved. We came to such a beautiful connection over Skype, and we just knew it was the right fit. And then we got to start this journey together.
Now, how about Ben? Talk to me about Ben when you first met Ben. Ben, of course, plays Travis, right?
Yes.
He's the lead actor. So good chemistry, or talk to me about that.
It is really hard to not have chemistry with Ben. You met him, he's just charming and sweet and open and vivacious. He's just a beautiful, bright light.
Right.
And so
Bright
it's very
light.
bright light.
There it is.
But he is, we both said to each other when we first met, we're like, this is going to be the easiest job ever, having to fall in love with each other, because he is really just a special person. And then he's like Broadway trained actor. So
Right.
he's really bringing his A game, and it's elevating everything. And he's a blessing for this movie. He's
So
special.
this is different than a lot of my films in that there's a big ensemble cast. Talk to me about that. Exciting, right? You get to do a different Nicholas Sparks, different than The Notebook, but in many ways just as much fun, right?
Yeah, it's been remarkable working with this cast. I have worked, you know, with so many talented people in the past, but then coming together on this movie, it feels really special. It feels different. I just think the level of talent that we have on this movie is beyond anything I've experienced before. I mean, Tom Wilkinson,
Right.
alone.
Plays Shep in the film.
He plays Shep. He's just so incredible to watch. He's a character actor. He's an absolute chameleon. He can play anything, and he does it with such an ease and a grace that's just beautiful to watch. Then we have Maggie Grace, who I've
Right.
been a fan of since
course.
Lost.
Right.
Alex Daddario, who I watched on True Detective.
Right.
She's brilliant in that. And then just, you know, a wonderful group of people. Tom Welling, Superman, who I remember having the biggest crush on him when I was younger. I used to watch his show, and he's charming, and it's hard. Like, what sort of a decision is that, having to pick between Tom Welling and Ben Walker? It's hard. It's a challenge. They're
Yeah.
both so charming.
It's like Lon and Noah, right?
Oh, I know.
Right?
I mean, James Marsden and Ryan Gosling.
I mean, come on.
What do you do? And they're both so different.
Exactly. Well, and you're in the exact same position.
Yeah,
So
it's the
talking
last
about
one.
working with Ross, what is Ross bringing new to you? You know, what is he bringing to you?
So Ross is a big, bright energy. He has a lot of fun. He has this beautiful childlike quality about him in that he's so enthusiastic about everything we do. He knows exactly what he wants. He already has the edit in his mind. He knows kind of what he's looking for, and he's also just the sort of director that completely trusts us and allows us to have these parameters in which we can work and find stuff and throw in unscripted things. And it's been really interesting. It's been this dance between Ben and I, and he's throwing ad-lib stuff at me and I'm throwing it back, and that's where the real beauty lies, I think, in finding that natural organic chemistry. And Ross just is excited by it. He wants to see more and more of it, and he gives us that freedom, and it's so refreshing as an actor to have that.
Nice.
So it's been a really fantastic journey so far.
Well, that is great. Well, here we are finishing up with Teresa Palmer, the wonderful star. She, of course, plays Gabby and has done an amazing job, just an extraordinary actress, and I think she really brings Gabby to life, and I'm sure people will regard her as the next Allie.
Oh, I hope so.
All right. Well, thank you all.
Thanks so much.
We are on the set of The Choice, and I have with me Mr. Ben Walker. He plays Travis in The Choice, and as one of the producers, what we were really looking for is a man who, an actor who showed extraordinary depth and an ability to do a lot of different things. So, you know, you do stand-up comedy, you play music, you've been on Broadway, you've been in films. Okay, where did you grow up, and how do you learn to do all this?
I grew up in Georgia.
Georgia, where in Georgia?
Small town called Cartersville, north of Atlanta.
Okay.
It's in the Blue Ridge Mountains area. And I went to school for it. I went to school in New York, and I've kind of lived there ever since.
Was that from a young age you started doing that, like from 6 or from 12 or?
No, it's kind of, I kind of only started my last year of high school, kind of taking it seriously. And you always think, you know, you get excited about something when you're that young, you think it's a fad.
Right.
And so I wanted to try in college because I figured it'd flush it out if it was a fad, and it hasn't yet. I'm still here.
So which came first? Was it the acting? Was it the comedy? Was it the music? What came first?
Probably the music. My mother's a musician, and she taught me to appreciate music and the ability to tell a story with music.
Okay, so you were kind of a Renaissance man.
If you're using the term loosely.
If I'm listening. All right, okay, so is that anything like Travis in this film? What do you think?
I think so. I think there's something about him where he's really capable in a lot of ways, and but interpersonal relationships are where he stumbles.
Is where he stumbles. So Travis has these problems in his interpersonal relationships, but we're not going to go there. But in what ways is Travis like Ben Walker?
I'd say I'm a pretty solitary guy.
Solitary guy.
I can respect the ability to be alone and the importance of being alone and being okay being alone, but ultimately, that ain't a life.
Yeah?
Life's meant to be shared.
Okay, so life's meant to be shared. Is that Ben's view? We know it's Travis's view, but is that Ben's view as well?
Well, it's Ben's view in the same way that it's Travis's view. It's his view till it's not. So you meet somebody that knocks you over, and then you don't really have a choice.
All right, so so how do you do something, so when you're dealing with Travis's character and you do have training and Broadway, right, really dramatic stuff, you're a stand-up comedian, really, how do you mix and match this? Do you bring, how much of each one of those do you bring to bear when you're doing Travis's character?
That's a great question. I think some people get into trouble when you try and separate the two.
Okay.
They are one and the same. That a lot of humor comes from a place of sadness, and a lot of really sad things are really funny. So if you can allow that cross-pollination, it kind of keeps itself free, and you don't, think yourself out of something that could be real.
So people always want to know when they see films, right? And you're working with Ross, who's a great director. How much freedom does he allow you? Does he allow you to make your own jokes and say, hey, do this your own way? What's it like working with Ross?
Yeah, I mean, he obviously has a vision for it.
Right.
And you respect and trust that vision, but at the same time, he's assembled such a great cast, and we have such chemistry together, and everyone's so spontaneous and intelligent and talented that to waste that would be a real waste.
Okay.
So the amount of playfulness that we have off camera kind of bleeds on camera, and that's important.
Right. Okay. So there's things that mood on the sets. This is something that a lot of people in the audience wouldn't understand. But there are various moods on set. You've been on a lot of sets. Talk to me about just the general mood and atmosphere on the set and how that influences what you're doing in a film like this.
Everybody's great. We're having the time of our lives every day. We have wonderful people to pretend to be friends. We're becoming friends. And we're just having a blast. I mean, it's really one of those rare jobs that comes along once, twice in a lifetime, where you just have a great time every day.
Nice, that's great. So talk to me about the chemistry that you felt with Teresa when you first met. She comes in, you do reading with her. How do you feel about, I mean, you're friends now. Did you have that right up front, do you think?
I do think we really connected really quickly. I mean, she's the easy one to fall in love with, and there's a generosity to her. For example, she brings her child every day to work, so it feels like we're all open and we can talk about anything, and the work is easeful because we're functioning as peers and friends as opposed to co-workers.
Okay.
And therefore we can play, and you can really create something really specific and something really interesting, something unique.
And then you've got a lot of great other co-stars. You're working with Maggie, your sister, Maggie, who plays your sister. How's that going?
She's whip smart.
Yeah.
She's the kind of sister you don't want to have that can call you on everything you say.
Right.
She can be on you like white on rice.
Yeah, and
She's
that's a lot of fun, I would think.
Yeah, absolutely.
And because that adds to this whole playfulness that you're talking about. What's the difference between doing a film and like doing a Broadway play?
Well, fundamentally, you film, you chop it up. And you get another crack at it. You don't have to wait till tomorrow night to beat yourself up for something you did wrong. But you get a full arc in a night with a play.
Okay.
But with a play, you don't get the full immersion like you do here. Like, we're here. We're not in a theater pretending to be in a beautiful place. We're here, and you can really let go of those things and really focus on the other person as opposed to trying to recreate some circumstance around you.
That's great. And so when you come here and you walk to this set first thing in the morning, do you feel like you think Travis might feel?
I do. I hope so.
Yeah.
A, sleepy. And B, I marvel at the splendor of it. It really is a beautiful place, and it's a beautiful place to make this beautiful story. It lends itself to that Southern romantic tendency, and
nice.
It makes the job easy.
So there you are, you're sitting in your living room, your agent says, hey, I got a script for you to read, or how did this whole thing come about for you?
Well, the first thing I did was meet Ross.
Right.
And we have some stand-up comedian friends in common, and he'd seen me on stage before, And I'd see him take a chance, and I just liked him. You know,
Yeah.
so oftentimes you meet people and you think, I'd really like to work with that guy. But I met Ross and I thought, I'd really like to work with that guy and hang out with that guy.
Nice.
And we're doing both, so
Right.
it worked out.
And that's great. So you met him first, and then you read the script.
That's right.
And then what did you bring to Travis's character when you were working with Ross and kind of fleshing this out and some of the pre-production parts of this?
Well, I think this, to be frank, I think the story is so dense that what you kind of have to do is be available to it. Like, you know, as a person and as an actor, you have resources to offer. But there's something that's so alive about it and so alive about everybody can relate to struggling with love. And if you allow yourself to, it's like a piece of music. You know, you can bring something that is your own personal expression, but if the music works, you just kind of play it.
All right. Well, everyone, this is myself, Nicholas Sparks. This is Ben Walker. We chose him again just because of his extraordinary talent through so many different artistic mediums, and we just felt that he brought everything to bear to bring Travis to life, and I think you'll agree after seeing the film that Ben Walker was the perfect choice.
Thanks.
Hey.
Hey.
I don't know that counting the days is gonna help much.
Yeah, well, that's all I got.
Why don't you come in? Spend some time, maybe. Read to the kids before bed or something.
Are you trying to say I'm neglecting my kids?
I didn't say that.
Yeah, but that's what you're getting at, isn't it?
If you were looking for a fight, you are not gonna find it here. You're not the only one who's hurt. Come on.
Can you tell me what to expect?
Hell of a lot of pain. Pain I can't even describe. And there's gonna be a lot of questions.
Yeah. I'm already asking them.
Yeah, well, there's gonna be a lot more, millions of them, and you better figure out who you're asking because you won't know the answers to half of them, not a fraction. But after a long, long time, the pain gets dull, bearable, and sometimes you even forget. And you start to remind yourself to hurt. Because you don't want to let her down. But that's not real. That's guilt. Well, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.